Hi everyone, welcome back to My Parenting Way. My name's Katie and today I'm going to give you my tips on how to travel on a flight with a baby or toddler during COVID-19. Now there are a few videos out there that already cover this topic, but I'm more specifically covering flights in and out and around the UK and Europe because some of the restrictions and rules are different from those around different parts of the world and especially the US. So I'm just covering about UK and Europe mostly. And I'm not going to talk specifically about ways of keeping safe in regards to being clean and wiping down and cleanliness or anything like that, because the general rules are as long as you wear your mask and you do good hygiene techniques and generally stay safe and away from people as much as you can, that general advice applies to any setting at all that you go to stay as safe as you can. Also, a lot of this advice can also apply whether it's COVID-19 or not, so it is just general child on a plane advice, but obviously with COVID-19, it has made things a little bit more difficult. So first I'm going to talk about how things have changed because of COVID-19 in regards to traveling on a plane with your little one, and then my tips will come up after. So what's changed? So anywhere in Europe or out of the UK, a child under the age of 6 doesn't need to wear a mask, but a child age 6 and over does need to wear a mask during the entire flight. In the US, I believe a child has to be 2 and upwards to wear a mask, including when they're sleeping, so just bear that in mind. The other main difference on board the actual flight itself is that you're not allowed to move from your seat unless you are going to the toilet, and then you need to go straight back. Even then, you are not allowed to queue outside the toilet. What we have found in our recent flight to France is that what you do is you have to press the button for the flight attendant, you have to ask whether the toilet is free, and then they will indicate whether the toilet was free or not, and only then can you go to the toilet. So what you might find is that during the entire flight, the fasten your seatbelt sign above you is on permanently. So it's just to encourage you and remind you that you need to stay seated throughout the entire flight. So those are the two main obvious changes with the restrictions of COVID-19. The other main difference at the moment, especially with the UK, if you're flying into the UK, is that Brexit has happened. So you'll find that restrictions going through passport control are a lot tighter, they're a lot more complicated if you are not a UK citizen, and vice versa if you're going to a different country, e.g. Europe, from the UK, obviously it's a lot more complicated as well. So it might be worth bearing that in mind when you travel. So tip number 1, pick your toys carefully when you go on a flight. So for us, it was really important to make sure that toys are small enough to fit in your bag, but also fiddly enough to keep children, especially ones like Aiden, who are especially active, occupied for long enough during the flight. Pick toys that don't roll, so no things like blocks, like circular blocks, no balls, obviously, because if they drop on the floor, you're not going to see them again. So for us, these Magic Water books by Galt are really good. So as you can see, they're white with a bit of a picture, and you get these sort of pens that you fill up with water, and basically you draw over and a picture reveals itself with water, and then it dries again and you can reuse it. And actually both my kids, both my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old, absolutely love these, and we play games and we do little drawings and doodles on it, and it's great because it's absolutely no mess. Aiden actually just spends his time taking the lid on and off, so he's occupied with just that. And then I found this incredible toy on Amazon, but there's lots of different variations of this. You can get like dinosaurs and whales, and we've got this little owl, and basically it's like a fiddle toy, and it's got like loads of clips and zips and toggles for them to play with, and obviously you can put little zips there, and it's scrunchy, and these are great. I think I got this for something like £10–15. As I said, there's lots of variations of a similar toy, but Aiden loved it, and he was obsessed with one particular clip, which he just kept opening and closing again, and That kept him going for like a good 15-20 minutes. It's great. Tip number 2, put everything in Ziploc bags. When I mean everything, I mean everything. So basically, if there's any situation that you need, you just pick it up and it comes all together in one block. So, for example, we've got nappies, everything you need to change a nappy. We've got snacks, we've got spare clothes. So anything that can fit in a Ziploc bag, in your bag, put it in there. Number 3, and this is a bit of an odd one, but take your shoes off immediately when you sit down. I only say this, but I mentioned it in my previous video covering our trip to France, our little holiday to France not too long ago. But it was really, really hot on the flight. I don't know whether it was that the air conditioning was lower or, you know, because of COVID, they had to the ventilation wasn't as good, but basically it was boiling. So by taking my shoes off immediately meant I just cooled down immediately. And I did this the same with both my children, and they Emily told me, who's 4, that she felt much better with her shoes off. So just take your shoes off. It's a simple thing, but it makes you feel loads better. Number 4, if you're going to take snacks on a flight, which for us it was a necessity, take snacks that take really long to eat or chew, or take our fiddly little snacks that take ages to eat and also don't make much of a mess. For example, raisins in a bag. Aidan just took ages like trying to pick them out all the time, which kept him occupied for a little bit, and things like rice cakes, which actually take a long time to eat and chew. They seem to be the best ones for us during the flight. If you've got a slightly older child who is allowed sweets, I found lollipops were really good at keeping them occupied because they take a long time to eat, and also it's really good for popping ears. Number 5, if you can, book your seat in advance. So a lot of the short haul flights in and around the UK, sometimes you have to pay extra to book your seat specifically. Otherwise, the check-in time will be later. You won't be able to check in until, say, 24 hours. If you book your seat, you can check in a lot earlier and you are guaranteed your seat. Now, for most airlines such as Ryanair or EasyJet, this comes at an extra cost, but for us it was totally worth it to make sure that we got all our seats together. And also it meant that we had at least one window seat with us, and that was really important actually, because Aidan really liked sitting next to the window because he liked lifting the little latch up and down, he liked looking out the window, it just seemed like a nice tucked away area for him to play, and that seemed to make everyone a lot happier. It was a little bit awkward to then transfer him out if he needed to change his nappy or whatever, but at least it gave us the option that we had the window seat there, and it gave us the peace of mind that we were all sat together. Number 6, this is a really important one, but make sure you have all the paperwork and know exactly where it is and exactly how to get it. I say paperwork, but what I mean by this is all the extra stuff you might need. Most of it you can get on your phone now, but even then you need to know how to find it quickly on your phone. And there's simple things like proof of vaccinations. If you've had your vaccinations, to travel back into the UK, you need something called a travel locator form. And with this, you need proof of a PCR test or a lateral flow test booking with that. So those are already 3 extra bits of stuff you might need. And this is on top of your usual boarding pass and passport that you'll need to just sort of get through the usual system. So make sure you know exactly where these documents are on your phone, how to get them, what numbers you need. Check it, triple check it before you go, because honestly it takes up so much time. Some people were at the front desk for like half an hour, 45 minutes trying to suss out what they needed, and it took ages to get through baggage because people needed all this proof, and it made it very complicated. Thankfully, we kind of had everything on hand and we sort of flitted through quite quickly, and it did make things a lot easier. Now, contrary to some advice out there, some people advise you to get on the plane first because that would give you a time to set up without everyone else already on the plane. For me, I didn't like that advice. I don't think that works for us as a family of 2 very active children. we like to be the very, very last people on the plane because it minimizes the amount of time we're actually sat down. Around the gate in the airport is usually a seating area, it's usually quite open, there's less footfall, it's not like the departure lounge where it's all very busy. So what we do is we put our bags on a seat, we let the kids roam around, make sure they're safe, we let them burn energy, and we are literally the last people in the queue to step foot onto the plane. And that way, when we do sit down, we know that the plane is going to take off literally within 10-15 minutes after we've sat down, rather than they be the first people on there having to struggle with an active toddler and then wait for everyone else to get on board, which can add another 15-20 minutes of sitting in a seat. So be the last to get on the plane. It makes such a difference. Next bit of advice, and it's really important, is to ask for help. I cannot stress this enough. It's very easy to get very bogged down and stressed and blinkered into getting on the flight, making sure your kids are all right, just doing everything yourself, because everyone is out for themselves when it comes to flying and traveling. They're just focused on what they need to do. But there are also some very kind people out there that if you're struggling, say, with a pram getting down some stairs, or if you're worried about your toddler throwing something or scrambling around, just talk to the people around you, whether it's a quick, I'm sorry about my toddler, I'm sorry about the crying. Some people, all they need is that kind of acknowledgement that you know that they're there, and it diffuses all the tension out of being on the flight. A very good example of this is recently when we went to France. Aidan had a horrendous trip there, and the woman, in fact, he climbed up on the seat and hit the woman sat in front of us on the head, and I was so embarrassed. But the woman turned round and I apologized and I said, I'm so sorry, like he's just too wiggly, and I apologize, as if is there anything I can do for you, blah 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 blah. And she turned around and she was like, nope, I've got kids, it's totally fine, I totally understand. And the fact that we had that conversation made everything a lot easier and lighter, and it diffused the tension out of me and the stress and the anxiety almost immediately. Talk to the people around you, ask for help if you need it, and sometimes people are very kind, and 9 times out of 10 they just shrug it off and go, no, it's fine, and then you feel much better. And last but not least, I quickly mentioned it at the beginning of this video, but passport control with children is a nightmare. So you've got through the departure lounge, you've got through the flight, you've landed, you've gone through all the crazy windy corridors, and you finally get to passport control. Now, because you have kids, you are not allowed to go through the little scanner thing. You need to queue up and actually see a person who will check your passport and let you through. Be aware that this is a nightmare. So it can be chaotic to queue, especially when, like us, you have children of school age and you have to go through like term time and half terms. So you arrive and the queue for passport control can be ridiculously long. Our recent trip, we landed and it was an hour and a half of queuing. So my tip in this situation is always be armed with an extra form of food or entertainment for the children, not only for the flight but for this queuing. I'm talking about little games, car journey games, things like I Spy, maybe like extra snacks, Simon Says that you can do on the spot, like Simon Says jump on one foot, Simon Says touch your nose, things like that will keep a child entertained. In regards to a toddler that doesn't understand these kind of games, it is a bit more tricky. So as I said, food is always the answer. Be armed with food. So there you go. I hope you found these tips useful. Please leave a comment below on any more tips you'd like to add. I'd be desperate to know some more because we've got another trip to France coming up, and anything that will help me get through a flight with a toddler, I'd be very grateful. Please click the like button if you found this useful. Hit the subscribe button to get all the updates on me and Aidan, and I will see you next time.